watched the first two installments of Mando Season 2 Ups and Downs, you'll know I wasn't the biggest fan of the first two episodes in the sense that while I thought they were good, self-contained adventures, we still haven't learnt much about the Mandalorian central mystery to learn more about the origins of the child and his grander quest to basically seek out other Mandalorians. Thankfully, Season 2, Episode 3, aka Chapter 11, does not disappoint as we learned more about Din's quest in the search for other Mandalorians, and we got some great reveals that are bound to make some really mega Star Wars dorks especially excited, i.e. me. I'm kind of amazed that I'm not just screaming into a camera for 10 minutes right now. With some brilliant direction from Bryce Dallas Howard and some superb action sequences, this is where I think The Mandalorian Season 2 finally arrived. So, buckle up, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture, and here are 7 ups and 1 down from The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3. First, the ups. Number 7, the strong intro. After escaping the spiders in the last episode, which have plagued my nightmares ever since, we got a really cool intro in this one as the Mandalorian and the Frog Lady, yes, she is still called the Frog Lady, and the child re-enter the atmosphere of this new aquatic planet which is home to all sorts of Quarren and Mon Calamari. It isn't Mon Calamari itself, but yeah, it is an aquatic planet, and anyway, the actual intro sequence is really tense and cool. We see the Razor Crest re-enter orbit, and because it doesn't have an actual guidance system, things get real dicey. And I want to point out as well, Ludwig Göransson's score in this episode is fantastic. Those early sequences in particular, he just is such a great composer and one of the best in Hollywood, and he really kind of accentuates what's happening on screen perfectly. And apart from the really tense and exciting re-entry sequence, we also get some really nice moments in the first 5 minutes of this episode, like the Frog Lady reuniting with her frog husband. It was really sweet. I kind of got very emotional. I don't know what that says about my state of mind right now, but yeah, it was a really nice moment to see them, and her in particular deliver her eggs safely out of the grasp of Baby Yoda, who I'm convinced is slowly more and more turning to the dark side. But anyway, the Frog Lady delivers her promise, and her husband points Mando to a nearby bar where he can learn more about the other Mandalorians that have supposedly been in the area. He meets a Quarren barkeep who dispenses chowder out of a giant tube that goes through the ceiling. Baby Yoda's food tries to eat them, and yeah, we learn more, and basically he points them towards these other Quarrens who run a shipping kind of boat fishing vessel to take them to where the other Mandalorians are. It was a great intro. I just kind of wanted to point that out because while the episode itself is strong from start to finish, I was roped in from the first minute. Number 6, Bryce Dallas Howard's strong direction. This should come as no surprise to everyone who watched the first season of The Mandalorian, and given you're watching this video and probably watching this season as well, I assume you will have, but Bryce Dallas Howard really can direct. I really enjoyed the first season episode she did, the one that kind of riffed on the Seven Samurai type concept, but this is a definite improvement, I thought. The actual episode itself was remarkably orchestrated. It was well-paced, exciting, frenetic, the action sequences were all spectacularly handled, and yeah, I definitely think this was the strongest directed episode thus far. Not to say that episodes 1 and 2 weren't compelling in and of themselves, because they were, and obviously, you know, episode 1 has that great IMAX shot with the crate dragon, and obviously episode 2 has lots of comedy and the fantastic stuff with the spiders, but I definitely thought in terms of direction, this episode really stood out to me. It was really well put together. And yeah, I really want to see more of Bryce Dallas Howard's directing because she's just really good at it. It was a fantastic episode. Number 5, The Child. Can I keep dedicating an up each week to The Child? I think I can. I'm not sure what arc they had this episode. Maybe learning the value of life and learning not to eat anything that even has the vaguest remnants of a pulse, but still, they had lots of great moments in this episode, and I love the interactions they had with the frog parents. You know, they sit them down and they actually get to see the frog lady's tadpoles come to life and then evolve very quickly. It's a very fast life cycle for these frog people. One comes out the egg and you get a cute little shot of Baby Yoda just going wah, and it's really nice. And yeah, it's just enjoyable. Obviously, anyone who's, if you've obviously watched the episode, you'll know that there is also a moment where the child is put in extreme peril, and that is very stressful because he literally gets bonked into a giant squid monster, which isn't great, but they come out of it unscathed and just kind of look like they have the 1,000-yard stare going on. But again, there's a reason why the child is so popular in this episode. It doesn't feel as though they're kind of inserted in a non-organic way. It's all natural, it's all earned, and yeah, I love the child. They're just great in this episode, and it's not been too distracting. It's enhanced everything we've seen so far, and that is a major up in my books. I know a lot of people have kind of theorized that potentially the child could be turning towards the dark side because, as you know, Mandalorians maybe aren't the best role models. I mean, that's not to slight Din's parenting abilities, even though he probably should feed the child more based on how much it's trying to eat. But at the same time, you get to see that the child isn't just indulging in their darker impulses here. Obviously, in Season 1, we saw him force choke Cara, we saw him do all sorts of different stuff. But here, they're actually appreciating life. They're not trying to eat the crap out of it each time. And that was nice. And hopefully, it kind of assuages some fears that maybe they could be raising a little Sith baby right now. Hopefully they keep on going on the right path. Number 4, the return of Bo-Katan. This is so good. I can't articulate this in a way that isn't going to make me sound like a massive dork because I love Star Wars Rebels and I love the Clone Wars, and it was just amazing to see in live action. Yeah, I know, we all knew this was coming because of the Deadline casting reports ages ago, but still, it is just fantastic to see Katie Sackhoff, who of course voiced the character in both the Clone Wars and Rebels, make her live-action debut here. It's literally like she's just walked off the actual cartoon and is in live action. And again, I kind of want to highlight just how great The Mandalorian has been in terms of introducing those expanded universe characters in a really organic way. I mean, that might not be the best call for me to make, given that I know all about Bo-Katan already, but I am curious to hear what people who aren't familiar with Star Wars Rebels or the Clone Wars thought of her as a character, because in my opinion, they introduced her really well and kind of set up and teased her backstory in a really interesting way. My fellow Star Wars Rebels fans were all actually a little bit worried when we heard that Bo was going to be in this episode, because if you're aware of Rebels, and they obviously reveal it in this episode as well, is that Bo was the wielder of the Darksaber before Moff Gideon took it. And we didn't know if potentially he had killed her, and that maybe Bo-Katan's presence in this series could have been a flashback. Thankfully, it's not. She's alive and well in that post-Return of the Jedi setting, kicking ass and shooting things, and just genuinely just being a really cool badass. And yeah, we learn that her main quest right now is to retake the Darksaber from Gideon and to unite Mandalore under her rule. I assume to oppose the Imperial remnants more generally, but again, it's just great to see her alive and well and not dead, which I genuinely feared. And of course, we get that great tease at the end of the episode, which basically sets up some sort of giant climactic battle between the Mandalorians and Moff Gideon, which I think will probably take place towards the end of the series, hopefully with some other significant Mandalorians too. Maybe a Boba Fett if he isn't going to be a bad guy, but hopefully Sabine Wren. I think there's a good chance she'll be coming up soon too. Number 3, learning why Din Djarin keeps his helmet on. One of the big questions a lot of Star Wars fans had with The Mandalorian Season 1 was, why does Din keep his helmet on, and indeed the rest of his clanmates, when all the other Mandalorians we've seen in Star Wars films and TV shows have been pretty liberal taking them off? Well, it turns out that Din may have been slightly radicalized. Obviously, we know from Season 1 that he was saved by Death Watch during the Clone Wars. Now, it turns out in this episode that children of the Watch, which are essentially, like the Mandalorian foundlings, were raised under the traditionalist Mandalorian ethos, which told them that they could never remove their helmets. Again, this is probably just a tiny, insignificant detail, but it is interesting to me in the sense that we now know that Din's perception of all other Mandalorians is basically informed from that radical creed. Obviously, he's still a good fella, at least he's trying to be, but again, I thought that was an interesting moment, and I do think that maybe going forward, we will see more of Pedro Pascal's lovely, lovely face rather than the shiny Beskar helmet, which is cool, but I do think we'll see more of his face going forward. Number 2, Moff Gideon re-enters the scene. Okay, so after Din meets Bo-Katan, she promises to him that if he helps her, she will point him in the direction of a Jedi she knows, but on the condition that he actually helps them with a heist, which is an Imperial ship that contains loads of different weapons. It's a really cool sequence. We get to see Lady Bo kicking ass with all the other Mandalorians until we eventually learn that Moff Gideon has been involved in this shipment of weapons. Now, this is just really cool. Giancarlo Esposito is fantastic, and it's been great to see him back in the role. And yeah, it teased up that conflict that I mentioned earlier on between Bo and Gideon and her attempts to get the Darksaber back. He's menacing, he's great. I cannot wait to see more of him in this season. And number 1, confirmation that we're going to meet Ahsoka. Again, not a major surprise given that the Hollywood trades already reported this ages ago, but oh my god, this is still really exciting. Like I said earlier, Mando has done a superb job integrating the expanded universe characters into live action, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Ahsoka in that medium too. I mean, it's difficult to gauge, again, as a massive Star Wars dork, how they're handling these inclusions. So if you haven't watched Rebels or the Clone Wars or read the Aftermath saga, I want you to let me know in the comments below how you felt about being introduced to characters like Cobb Vanth, like Bo-Katan, and now Ahsoka. So yeah, please let me know, because I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Either way, really cool reveal, can't wait to meet her, and I am curious to see if Sabine is with her too. Obviously, for those who are aware of Star Wars Rebels, and I imagine there will be some spoilers for that show in The Mandalorian Season 2, you will know that at the end of that show, Ahsoka and Sabine, after the end of Return of the Jedi, meet up to try and figure out where Ezra went with Thrawn. So I'm interested to see if any of that quest comes into play in live action too, and if it plays into the rumored Star Wars Rebels sequel animated series that's meant to be coming out in the future. Now for the one down. Number 1. It does feel slightly contrived. The nitpickiest of nitpicks, I know, but still, I can't help shake the feeling that even though this episode was fantastic, everything did feel just a little bit contrived. Now, this isn't this episode's fault. I definitely think it's an issue with the format of the first 3 episodes as a whole. I mentioned in the first episode and the second episode that things felt quite video gamey. Mando has to help out X character to achieve X resource to get forward in his quest, and I still feel as though that was a little bit of the case today. It still feels very convenient. Everyone knows a guy who knows a guy. It's kind of Ant-Man-y in nature, and yeah, it doesn't affect my overall enjoyment of the series. I'm happy for it to keep going, but you know, it definitely just feels as though they're not thinking too hard about how to make this feel natural and organic in the sense that we see Mando meet these characters. I think the introduction to the characters themselves is great in terms of making sure you don't have to be familiar with the expanded universe to enjoy their appearances, but equally, I do think that maybe overall it is a little bit convenient that Mando's circle, his close circle, knew a person who knew a person. Again, didn't detract from my overall enjoyment of the episode, but just thought I'd point it out anyway, just for the sake of balance. And those were 7 ups and 1 down from The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3. I want to hear your thoughts on the episode down in the comments below, and while you're down there, it would be amazing if you could like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more so you never miss another upload going forward. And after that, we would be honored if you would join us on What Culture Star Wars, yes, our brand new Star Wars channel that's going to have lists, news, editorials, more ups and downs and stuff in the future. It's great. I'm really excited about it, and yeah, it would be great if you could go check that out if you are a fan of all things related to the galaxy far, far away. That's all for now though. I've been Ewan. Remember, you can find more content like this at whatculture.com and more of me on Twitter if you so desire at EwanRuinsThings. I'll see you next time though. Bye.